You're listening to The Big Conversation.
Brought to you by the Cheshire and Merseyside Resilience Hub.
Joined by special guest, Paul Tinnion.
On today's episode, we're joined by Paul Tinnion, who is a clinical team manager over in the Merseyside region. And he's come to talk to us today about reaching out and the importance of it. So, hey, Paul, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
Brill. So you come to talk to us today about reaching out for support and help when people need it the most. What's your story?
So it all kind of stemmed from one incident really, and that was I in June this year I collapsed in the middle of the night and banged my head off the bathroom tap, and ended up finding out I've got a bleed on the brain, which I went to A&E thinking that I would be told that I've just I've got concussion and to chill out and go home and get better. And ended up staying in and having neuro observation observing me, and it was all very, very, very weird. And no one really kind of told me how long I was going to be unwell for, like headaches, couldn't speak properly. So yeah, if I pause in this, I still have some kind of like speech deficit from it. And word finding is definitely a thing. But yeah, no one told me how long I was going to get better or take to get better or anything like that. So I was off work. I was having headaches nearly every day, and I wasn't really doing anything. I've got a wife and 3 children, and I was kind of avoiding being around people because the sound made my head worse. So I was kind of isolating myself. Whenever they were out, I would go by myself, and my wife being in work and stuff. And so I spent a lot of time by myself for 2 months.
Wow, right.
And I kind of I realized I wasn't right. I was snappy. I was irritable. I was becoming more and more, I don't want to be around people. I didn't want to do things. I wasn't doing anything. I would play on the PlayStation for like 8 hours a day or watch film after film after film, but just be by myself. And after a while, I got annoyed at myself at how I was feeling, but I didn't know what to do about it. So
I think I just from that little bit of insight there, though, you've gone through a massive amount of change in such a short period of time. So it's allowing yourself to understand that. And I totally get you where you say you become snappy and your mood changes and sounds and light and everything else, because you don't think about the long-term effects of something as small as that, as banging your head. Like you said, you ended up in A&E for hours having neuro observations and everything that comes with it. And then it's the aftermath as well that you have to deal with, and having to adjust your own time frame from months to months, maybe even a year for you to get better. And what did you do in the meantime? How did you reach out for help?
So in the past, I've had counselling as well. Just like stressful job, stressful life, etc., etc. I've always been pretty mindful of my mental health. I think I've been a nurse and for a really long time, and certainly over the last sort of 10 or 15 years, it has become much more of a prevalent idea of think about people's mental health. And certainly when I joined the team that I work in now, there's a lot of anxiety amongst my patients. And so it is something that I'm more aware of in my daily practice as well as my daily life. And so I've always tried to, like if you're going to go to the doctors because you banged your head, you might as well go to the doctors because what's going on inside it isn't functioning properly. And I've always had that kind of idea. So I previously I lived in Liverpool and the services that I'd engaged with in Liverpool, so I wasn't sure what was. I live in the Wirral now. I wasn't sure what was available to me, so I just Googled mental health services on the Liverpool and went through the NHS
Okay.
things there and found Talk Together.
Yeah. Did you find any implications about reaching out? Was there a stigma attached to it, or did you just dive straight in and thought I needed to get this sorted?
Oh, I mean, I I'm quite open about myself anyway. I kind of I'm happy to tell everyone. At that point, I wasn't particularly
Yeah.
feeling that open, but I told my wife. She didn't say anything about it. I even told my kids because I thought, you know, they're probably
Yeah.
going to notice how I've been. They're older anyway. I mean, like
Mm.
they're late teens, and I've got, like they're adults basically. I'm
Yeah.
one baby. So I kind of told the older boys what I was doing, and like their generation just see it as like, oh right, yeah, Sam, you're looking
I
after
think this
your
is
health, looking after your mental health. That's fine.
Yeah, this is a thing, isn't it? It's a generational concept where, in terms of reaching out and asking for help, if we think back to, say, people in the 50s, there was no such things as like mental health because nobody spoke about it. And it was just, oh, this is who I am, this is what I do now. Whereas in today's day and age, and even us as we're growing into this day and age, it's kind of like more understanding and more acceptable. And the stigma around reaching out isn't prevalent enough, if that makes sense. There's just you just got to look after yourself, haven't you? You've got to reach out and understand. You know when your body's not right, and it's saying, "Oh, I need to reach out. I need help. I need support," type of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
in terms of then, so going for help with Talk Together, what was the process there? What did you end up receiving from them?
So, I mean, I online form, filled it in, received a phone call 2, 3 days later, where it was like a triage call,
Mm.
um, and they ask you why you're referring yourself and
Yeah,
ask you lots of questions. I mean, they obviously screen you for all of the urgent, like mental health crises
yeah,
questions and things like that. But I was kind of, aware that they were going to happen, so I wasn't particularly like put off by them or anything like that.
yeah,
So yeah, the call was about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. And at the end, they gave me the option of what therapy they thought I needed. I mean, and they were guiding it as well,
yeah,
but it was more, you can have, CBT, or you can have, a chat, and
yeah, yeah,
there there are benefits to both of them. Um, the 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 benefit of CBT is that it gives you tools that you'll be able to, and it will probably fix it. Whereas instead of talking about it, might not actually have an end fixing point.
yeah.
It would just be exploring how you feel and why you feel like that. Whereas the CBT, it was pitched as, it's much more of a tool to help you get better.
No,
Um,
absolutely. I think this is one of the things with reaching out or getting therapy or talking about stuff as well is understanding the process of it. And like you've just said, having the chat is great, but having the actual physical aspects of, say, CBT, EMDR, whatever type of thing. But it's also the acronyms as well that come with it. So it's actually breaking that down, because when we talk about CBT, it's acronyms, especially in the day and age that we live in. They're kind of scary, because it's like, oh, it's very medical, it's very clinical, it's very, so if you don't know anything about it. And for the people listening and watching, CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and EMDR is eye detected movement therapy. Different types of therapy, and they work different ways. But again, it's destigmatizing that. And for yourselves going in, and like you've come from a clinical perspective going in understanding this, so it's that mindset of kind of breaking it down barrier by barrier, really, isn't it, and understanding what it is they're there to do and to offer the help support that comes with it. So it's it's quite a mindful. And have you finished your journey with the counselling sessions now? Is this still ongoing?
Yeah, just to go back to the point, I mean, as a clinician, I found the acronyms quite comforting because I spend my entire life working in acronym. Every word round you ever hear, it's odd if you ever
Yeah.
hear just like a normal word that everyone else
Mm.
would understand. So for me, I kind of liked it a bit, but yeah, I have finished my therapy. I did it in 4 weeks, and it was supposed to be longer,
Yeah,
but for me, everything that they explained, I understood the point of it. I could see the next
yeah,
step. To my head, there was like a logical next step of where each thing they were teaching me would lead me to.
yeah.
So I kind of did the next step. So by the time I came to the next sort of, I've never had CBT before. I've never even,
Yeah,
I, I wasn't even aware. I knew that it was a thing. I wasn't aware what it did, but
right.
the therapist that was going through it with me explained it in such a way that it meant that in my head I could just picture why we were doing each of the therapies and where they were leading. So
Yeah,
I ended up kind of doing it myself. What she was telling me to do, I was also doing something else, and then that
yeah.
would end up being what the
The
next
next thing.
lesson, like
Yeah,
the next therapy session was going to be. So for
yeah.
me, the biggest thing was the first session.
Mm,
The the difference that first session made to me, and in my mental health, was unbelievable,
mm.
because the first session was, this is what is wrong.
Yeah,
You explore how you feel, why you feeling it, what the cause, like what you think the cause is, why A, B, C, E,
yeah,
the various aspects around why you are unwell, and then at the end you write a statement out based on that. Yeah.
yeah.
And when I read that statement, it was just like a thunderbolt from the sky. Like, it's like,
Everything just fell into place.
that's what's wrong. Yeah,
Mm.
that's why
It's
I feel so awful.
it's really it's weirdly insightful when stuff like this happens. And I'm just going to go back to the point of you saying you're doing the next step before the next step actually arrived. It's kind of like being at school,
Yeah,
getting your maths homework, doing all of that, and then realizing, well, actually, I could do an extra bit more type of thing. And
yeah,
it's that learning aspect at the same time. And I think from what you're saying in terms of your journey into the understanding of it, and from point one to that statement, and then you're going, actually, that makes sense.
yeah.
And then bit by bit engaging further and further. And I think that's what allows you to grow as well, in terms of your journey, because you want it for yourself. You're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. You want to get better. You want to sort where you're at, your mind space at, and get peace with yourself at the same time, don't you?
Oh, that was it. It was like, I was almost sick of myself. That I know I was moping around the house. I know,
Yeah,
like, I wouldn't go to a coffee shop. I was just like, oh, I can't be bothered. I wouldn't have a shower. Oh, I can't be bothered.
yeah,
Like, I've got, what's the point? There's nothing. I'm not going out anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I don't have to go to work. I'm like,
yeah,
and then to 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 have it written down in front of you,
yeah,
this like all-encompassing sentence of what my problem was.
yeah,
It was it was so good. But yeah, I think I was trying to, there's probably a danger in doing that, is that I'd have gone down completely the wrong route, in where,
yeah.
in my head the next logical step was X, Y, and Z, but it might not have been that, and I might have,
Done
potentially
something.
been
Yeah,
doing something that was counter to what the therapist wanted. But
But you had a therapist there as well to guide you through the process. You wasn't just left alone to
oh
do
no,
this. It's so the damage you say that you could have done would always be minimalized anyway. It'd
yeah,
be because it's kind of like a hand-holding process, isn't it? You're never alone during this sort of period, reaching out or you're asking for help. So you've that's the biggest step. It's like going to a gym, isn't it? The first time you go to a gym, you're like, oh, I've got to go to a gym, and then when you're actually there, you're fine. And it's
yeah,
kind of like that process with a therapist. Oh, the stigma around it. Oh, I've got to do this. But that actually, when you're done, like you've said, everything just fell into place then, and
yeah, yeah.
it made it better for you. So, where are you now on your journey with therapy? Are you, like you said, you've completed it? Do
So it's
you do you see it in a different light? Do you push it to other people and say, go for therapy, look at this, Lord?
well,
What's your story?
suppose I tweeted about it afterwards, and I'm not a particularly heavy Twitter user.
Yeah,
I read it more than tweet, but I did tweet about when I came back to work. I was just I can't drive, so I was being
yeah,
driven. I'm not allowed to drive until I get signed off by neuro, which is by
yeah.
far the most debilitating thing that I
I can
have left.
imagine.
And my wife was just driving, and I was just sat in the car, and I was thinking about the therapy and the difference in which I felt being, because I was out, we were going into town, and the
Yeah,
difference that I'd felt in being able to do that. And so I thought, oh, I need to get this out. And so I just more like stream of consciousness thought, like in a tweet,
yeah.
and I put that out, that at the end had a thank you to talk together on it. But
Smashing.
that what but that was like me saying to everyone, this,
Yeah,
if you if you're willing to go and see a doctor because like you've got a lump here, or like this is weird on my body or whatever,
yeah, yeah,
you should feel the same way about your own mental health,
yeah,
and the difference that it has made in me
yeah.
in such a short period of time. Like I'll scream about it from the rooftops. That's
No,
why
no,
I
absolutely.
that's
Yeah,
why I'm
yeah.
here, is because I'm so like
Well,
thankful to it for how I am now.
on that note, where you say about being thankful and this is why you're here, if someone was going through a similar issue or was down in the dumps type of thing and wasn't being feeling themselves, what would your advice be to them?
Um, First thing, it's not your fault.
Mm,
Don't don't blame yourself, because that's definitely what I was doing. I was just like, oh, this is because I had this head injury, and and it's nothing I could control. And situations will always come in life that you can't control, and there's a way of taking some control for yourself,
yeah,
and that's recognize that there is a problem and try and get help for it.
yeah,
The therapy services were brilliant. They were they were
yeah,
they were so good, and they were so kind and thoughtful, and they'll listen to
yeah.
you, and it and the other thing is like, what's the harm in talking about it?
Absolutely.
It's not like someone saying you've got to go and have an operation. This
Where we
is just
talk,
literally talking.
this is it, and it's the aspect of saying about the stigma aspect about reaching out and about actually just saying to people, it's a fresh pair of ears, isn't it? No judgment, judgment free, confidential, and say how you feel out there. And I think it, the way people deal with stuff in different measures and different mindsets, and um, some people might overthink things, some people might write stuff down, some people might just bottle it up, and we all deal, every single person is different in the way they handle specific situations. And from just listening to you, I can I can feel the passion for this for you as well, because it's helped you. So if it's helped you, it can help other people at the same time. And it's that mindset of just saying reach out and speak to people and love yourself like you love everybody else type of thing.
Yeah. They did, and they didn't. It wasn't voodoo. It was just common sense. But unless you
Yeah,
have someone directing you towards that, you don't see it.
yeah,
That was one of the kind of revelation shocks to me, was like, oh God, I actually know this. I do know this,
yeah.
but I can't do anything about it. And that's what therefore
It's
the,
when you're
the
in a
revelation
position,
helps you.
absolutely, when you're in a position like that, and not just like that, but I mean, any sort of predicament where you're having to think of for things, you start to get tunnel vision in the way you view stuff. So you don't see the outside picture or the bigger picture. So with that mindset, having someone there to talk to, handhold, and talk you through processes, even though you say it's common sense, it's still. And then as soon as the penny drops with yourself, you go, actually, yeah, this is it. And then it's that mindset that changes, isn't it?
And I think once you've got that statement in front of you, it gives you something to change.
Yeah,
Like it gives you the focal point and of like, okay, that's so if that's what's where my problems were, personally, my problems were like I was isolating myself.
yeah,
So it seems quite simple then to stop isolating yourself, reach out, go to the coffee shop, have a shower so that you'll go to the
yeah,
coffee shop. But just those little things, which I should have been doing, to have someone to say, right, like put them into an order in which you think is important, and then slowly work
yeah,
through those each of those things. It was just like, oh God, yeah, of course. And
yeah,
going back to the stigma thing, I mean, if I think about certain friend groups that I've had over the years, there are definitely certain friend groups where this is fine. Like me just
yeah,
sitting here talking about this is fine. And then there are definitely friend groups where I probably wouldn't have spoken about it. Or
yeah,
yeah, not that I'm not bothered about talking about it, because I'm not bothered about talking about it, but whether I don't think I would have got the same reception, or it
yeah,
would have just been like, well, the classic man up, like just have a beer, you'll be fine. Those
yeah.
kind of those
It's
kind of
like
attitudes.
it's like someone who might be depressed, for example, just cheer up, don't be sad, and
Yeah,
oh, okay, I won't be sad no more. And it's that mind. I totally get you, because I've got friendship groups like that, and it's kind of you approach the boundaries bit by bit. Oh, just tell them this much, and then I like I tell you, it's making me smile internally this, because that's exactly what I've got with my friendship groups as well. When you try to talk about specific stuff, be it about politics, be it about finances. Oh no, no, no. And then people you feel the closed offness. So then you just change the subject and you're like, noted not to say this next to you next time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it is weird, because in those friend groups, you'd probably say like, "Oh, I went to the doctor because I had this lump," and that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Like you just have everyone would just take the mick out of you for whatever your problem is, and
Yeah.
then it would move on. Whereas this, as you say, having some kind of stigma about it being a mental health issue would probably make people freeze up. Told
Yeah.
my stepdad exactly the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh right, you know,
And
like
I think that also stems back to like the generational aspect as well. It's oh no, no, I don't talk that, and it's kind of like, well, actually, you're all right to cry just because you're a man. You don't need to man up. You can just be you, and it's
yeah,
kind of getting that message out to people as well, isn't it?
you can be sad. I mean, I've got to say, my sister, she had a problem with alcohol. She lives down south, and she had a problem with alcohol, and went through all of the kind of services to get help with that, has been sober for 3 or 4 years now. And
Amazing.
her journey and her like getting people to seek help, like
Mhm.
she's really present on social media and things like that about getting help and seeking help and seeking therapy, and I think having that in the family as well is helpful, because
Yeah,
it's already out there within the family that
yeah,
these issues, everybody has different issues, but they can all be looked at if you are willing to look
Yeah.
at them.
I think one of the big factors as well is we've all got some sort of life experience. It doesn't matter what the subject is, we've all got some sort of life experience. Everybody has it, and it's just about sharing that, easing the journey for other people. It's kind of like I've been there, I've done that, I've worn the t-shirt. Now here's the t-shirt with all the advice on for you from my perspective. You don't have to do that, but this is what I did, type of thing. And I think it's really insightful, like you're saying, coming forward, and actually wanted to come on the podcast and talk about this at the same time, because I think it's really it's really important anyway, just for people to, like you said, talk about the mental health, but to actually own it and talk further and come through the process of it and share your journey with other people. It's quite insightful, and it's very selfless at the same time, because you've been there, you've done that, and you want to help other people. So it's a really good attribute that you're trying to pass on to other people, and like you said, be open and honest. um Paul, I'd love to talk about this forever and a day, because there's so much more that I could go into, but unfortunately we've run out of time. So
Thank
I
you.
just want to say a massive thank you for you to for coming on the podcast, but also congratulations on getting to where you are now, because reaching out has done you the world of good. Like I said, not showering to showering, going to the coffee shop, doing the stuff that you want to do now.
Yeah, and I'm back at work now as well, so I think that, you know, like the sense of purpose and everything has
Even
come
better.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks for having me anyway.
No
I
worries.
appreciate
God, thank you very much. Paul, if you need any further help or support, this is what the Resilience Hub is here for. We cover the whole of Cheshire and Merseyside, NHS staff, social care and emergency services. So if you feel yourself in a situation like that, have a look at our website, self-referring to us. Paul's taught you through a bit of the journey there. That's exactly what we type of do. And it's kind of will always be there step by step for you. So don't be alone, reach out. And thank you very much for listening, everybody.
Resilience is strength. Let us help you find yours.